Hello everyone. Before this video begins, I need to sit down with you for a minute and be completely honest about what's going on. This isn't the message I wanted to give, but it's the one I have to give. This will be the last video I'm able to post until February. I really wish it wasn't the case, but right now, I just don't have another option. YouTube has removed monetization from Revenge Alley, and when that happens, the entire production process falls apart. I'll only be able to reapply for monetization in March, unless they somehow change their minds, which is very unlikely. These stories take real time, real effort, and real work to make. Without monetization, I simply can't keep releasing them the way I've been doing for the past year. I need to pause, regroup, and rebuild everything behind the scenes so this channel can survive long term. And I want to be very straightforward with you. I'm sad. I'm frustrated. And honestly, it feels incredibly unfair. I've followed every guideline. I've created only original stories. I've always been careful with every detail, because I respect this platform, and I respect every single person who chooses to watch these videos. Meanwhile, I see channels every day posting recycled clips, inappropriate content, low-effort mass-produced material, and they stay monetized without a problem. Watching this channel, built honestly, built from scratch, get hit like this, it hits hard. It really does. It feels like doing things the right way ended up counting against me. So as much as it pains me to step back for a while, I need this pause. I need time to reorganize the workflow, adjust the structure, and make sure that when Revenge Alley comes back, it comes back stronger, cleaner, and sustainable for the long run. I'm not disappearing. I'm not giving up. The plan is to return in February and continue building this project the way I always intended. Now, if you're wondering how you can support the channel during this break, it's actually very simple. Just stay subscribed and turn notifications on. That's the best way to make sure you're here the moment new videos return in February. There's one more thing you need to know. Over the next days and weeks, I'll be removing the videos from the channel as part of this reset. So if there are stories you want to rewatch, now is the moment to do it. Once they're gone, they're going to stay offline until the full rebuild is complete. Thank you, truly, for being here. Thank you for your support, your comments, your time, and your trust. This audience has treated the channel with honesty and respect, and that means more than you'll ever know. It's the reason I'm committed to bringing Revenge Alley back the right way. For now, enjoy the final video of our channel. And again, thank you for watching Revenge Alley. Happy birthday to my soon-to-be ex-wife, Derek announced, sliding a manila envelope across the table toward me while his friends erupted into laughter. The restaurant went quiet around us, forks suspended mid-air, conversations dying on strangers' lips. I stared at the envelope, my 37th birthday cake sitting untouched between us, its candles still waiting to be lit. My name is Laura, and I had spent the last 8 years married to a man who thought cruelty was comedy. We lived in Portland, Oregon, in a house I had helped pay for with my salary as a logistics coordinator at Thornmere Solutions. I had met Derek at a friend's barbecue when I was 28, drawn to his easy charm and the way he made everyone around him laugh. What I did not realize then was that eventually, I would become the punchline. "Open it! Open it!" his friend Tyler chanted, slapping the table. Beside him, Greg was already recording on his phone, capturing what they clearly expected to be my humiliation. Derek sat back in his chair with that smug smile I had grown to despise, the one that said he had won something I had not even known we were competing for. I picked up the envelope with steady hands, a calmness settling over me that surprised even myself. Inside were divorce papers, already filled out, with little sticky arrows pointing to where I needed to sign. Derek had even highlighted the sections in yellow, as if I might miss them otherwise. "Took me weeks to plan this," Derek said proudly. "Figured your birthday was the perfect time. You know, out with the old, in with the new." His friends howled with laughter again, and I noticed a few other diners looking at us with a mixture of horror and fascination. But what Derek did not notice, what none of his idiot friends seemed to register, was the man sitting at the end of our table. Julian had been quiet all evening, nursing a glass of wine and watching the scene unfold, with an expression I could not quite read. He was Derek's cousin on his mother's side, visiting from Seattle where he worked as an architect. Tall, dark-haired, with the kind of quiet intelligence that made you want to lean in when he spoke. Everything Derek pretended to be, Julian actually was. As the laughter continued around me, Julian leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sign them," he said. "Sign them, and then I can finally have my chance with you." I turned to look at him, really look at him, and something in his eyes made my heart skip. This was not a joke. This was not another cruel punchline. This was an offer, a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. The truth was, I had been drowning for years. I just had not admitted it to myself until that moment, sitting in that restaurant with divorce papers in my hands and a room full of people waiting to watch me fall apart. Derek and I had started out like any other couple. There were flowers and romantic dinners and whispered promises about the future. He was charming when he wanted to be, the kind of man who could light up a room with his presence. But somewhere along the way, his charm curdled into something darker. The jokes at my expense started small, little comments about my cooking or my weight that he would brush off as teasing. But they grew sharper over time, more pointed, until I found myself dreading social gatherings because I never knew when I would become the target. I had given up so much for this marriage. My friends had slowly drifted away, tired of being caught in the crossfire of Derek's cutting remarks. My relationship with my own family had become strained because Derek always found a reason to skip holiday gatherings or complained endlessly when we did attend. I had stopped pursuing the promotion at work because Derek insisted my job was just a backup plan and that I should focus more on keeping the house in order. The worst part was how long it took me to see it. When you are in the middle of it, when the manipulation is gradual and wrapped in just enough affection to keep you hooked, you do not realize you are being dismantled piece by piece. I had convinced myself that every married couple had their problems, that Derek's behavior was just his way of coping with stress, that things would get better if I just tried harder, loved more, gave more of myself. But things never got better. They only got worse. I had started noticing Julian about 2 years ago, at a family reunion Derek had reluctantly attended. While Derek spent the afternoon complaining about the food and making snide comments about his relatives, Julian had sat with me on the porch and actually listened when I talked. He asked questions about my job, my interests, my dreams. He looked at me like I was a person worth knowing, not a prop in someone else's comedy routine. After that reunion, I found myself thinking about Julian more often than I should have. Not in any inappropriate way, I told myself. I was married, after all. But there was something about the way he treated me that highlighted just how poorly Derek did. Julian remembered details from our conversations months later. He sent me articles about topics I had mentioned in passing. When we were at family gatherings, he always made sure I had a drink and someone to talk to. I had told myself it was nothing, that Julian was just a kind person. But sitting in that restaurant with his words echoing in my ears, I wondered if I had been blind to something that had been building all along. Derek was still laughing with his friends, completely unaware that his carefully planned humiliation was about to backfire in spectacular fashion. I looked down at the divorce papers again, at the highlighted signature lines and the sticky arrows pointing to my future. For 8 years, I had bent myself into shapes trying to fit into Derek's version of what a wife should be. I had swallowed my pride, silenced my opinions, and shrunk myself down until I barely recognized the woman I had become. And for what? For a man who thought serving me divorce papers on my birthday in front of his friends was hilarious. "You know what, Derek?" I said, my voice cutting through the laughter. "You are absolutely right. This is the perfect birthday gift." I pulled a pen from my purse, the same pen I used to sign contracts at work, to authorize shipments worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. With deliberate calm, I flipped to the first signature page and signed my name, then the second, then the third. The laughter around the table began to fade, replaced by confused silence. Derek's smug expression flickered, uncertainty creeping in at the edges. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Exactly what you asked me to do," I replied, not looking up as I signed the final page. "I am signing your divorce papers. Happy birthday to me." I slid the papers back across the table to him, feeling lighter than I had in years. The weight that had been pressing down on my chest for so long suddenly lifted, and I could breathe again. Really breathe. "Wait, no, that is not—" Derek sputtered, his face reddening. "You were supposed to cry. You were supposed to beg me to reconsider." "Why would I beg to stay married to someone who treats me like this?" I asked, genuinely curious. "You just handed me my freedom, Derek, on a silver platter, with witnesses." Tyler and Greg exchanged uncomfortable glances. This was clearly not how the evening was supposed to go. Greg had even stopped recording, the phone now hanging limply in his hand. I stood up from the table, gathering my purse and the birthday card my sister had sent that I had not yet had a chance to open. Julian rose with me, his movement so natural it seemed choreographed. "Where do you think you are going?" Derek demanded, finally finding his voice. "Home," I said simply. "To start packing your things." "My things? That is my house. Actually, it is in my name. I bought it before we got married, remember? You never wanted to be added to the deed because you said paperwork was boring." I smiled, and it felt like the first real smile I had worn in years. "Thank you for that, by the way." Julian placed his hand gently on the small of my back as we walked toward the exit. Behind us, I could hear Derek's voice rising in pitch, demanding that someone explain what had just happened, insisting this was not funny anymore. No, it was not funny. But for the first time in 8 years, I was the one walking away laughing. The cool Portland air hit my face as we stepped outside, and I inhaled deeply, filling my lungs with the scent of rain-washed streets and pine trees. Julian walked beside me in comfortable silence, not rushing to fill the space with empty words. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" he finally asked as we reached the parking lot. "The house is mine," I reminded him. "Derek can find a hotel, or sleep in his car. I honestly do not care anymore." Julian nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Would you like some company? Just to make sure he does not cause a scene when he gets back." I studied his face in the glow of the streetlights, searching for any hint of an ulterior motive. But all I found was genuine concern and something else. Something warm that made my stomach flutter. "I would like that," I said. We took separate cars to my house, a modest 2-story Craftsman I had purchased with my savings before Derek ever entered my life. I had always loved this house, with its wide front porch and the maple tree in the backyard that turned brilliant orange every fall. Somehow during my marriage, I had forgotten that it was mine, that I had earned it, paid for it, made it a home before Derek decided to move in and claim it as his own. Inside, Julian helped me gather Derek's things into boxes. His clothes from the closet, his sports memorabilia from the garage, his collection of expensive whiskey that he bought with money we could not really afford. With each item I packed, I felt another chain fall away. "Can I ask you something?" Julian said as we worked. "Of course." "What you said back at the restaurant about what Derek did, has it always been like that?" I paused, a handful of Derek's socks suspended over a cardboard box. "Not always. At least it did not feel that way at first. The cruel jokes started small, you know? Little comments here and there. By the time I realized how bad it had gotten, I was so deep in it, I did not know how to get out." Julian set down the box he was holding and turned to face me. "I noticed," he said quietly. "At family gatherings, the way he talked to you. The way you would shrink whenever he spoke. I wanted to say something so many times, but I did not know if it was my place." "Why did you say what you said tonight?" I asked, the question that had been burning in my mind since the restaurant. "About having your chance?" He met my eyes, unflinching. Because I have been in love with you for 2 years, and watching you suffer in that marriage was torture. I never said anything because you were married, and I respect that. But tonight, when he handed you those papers and expected you to fall apart, I saw my opening. I saw a chance to finally tell you the truth. My heart was pounding so hard I was certain he could hear it. Julian, you do not have to say anything, he continued quickly. I am not asking for anything right now. I just needed you to know that there is someone who sees you, really sees you, and thinks you deserve so much better than what Derek gave you. Before I could respond, headlights swept across the window. Derek was home. The front door slammed open with enough force to rattle the pictures on the wall. Derek stormed in, his face twisted with rage, Tyler and Greg trailing behind him like loyal dogs. "What the hell is going on here?" Derek shouted, his eyes darting between me, Julian, and the boxes stacked in the living room. "Julian, what are you doing in my house?" "It is not your house," I said calmly. "We already established that at the restaurant. Your things are packed. I suggest you take them and leave." Derek's face went from red to purple. "You cannot just kick me out. We have been married for 8 years. "Exactly," I replied. 8 years of being your punching bag, your joke, your excuse to feel superior. You wanted a divorce, Derek. You got one. Now leave." Tyler stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Hey, you cannot talk to him like that. Derek is our boy." Julian moved to stand beside me, his presence solid and reassuring. "I think you should listen to her. This is her property, and she has asked you to leave." Derek's eyes narrowed as he looked at his cousin. Really looked at him, standing close to me, protective and calm. I watched the realization dawn on his face, the understanding that something was happening here that he had not anticipated. "Wait a minute," Derek said slowly, his voice dripping with accusation. "Are you two... have you been..." He could not even finish the sentence, choking on his own jealousy. "I have never cheated on you," I said flatly. "Unlike some people." I had found the credit card receipt 6 months ago. Hotels in Vancouver, expensive dinners, jewelry purchases that never made their way to me. I had confronted him, and he had laughed it off, called me paranoid, made me feel crazy for even asking. Derek's face went pale. "That is... I never... Her name is Brittany, right? The receptionist at your gym," I continued, watching him squirm. "Did you think I would not find out eventually? Or did you just think I was too stupid to notice?" The room fell silent. Even Tyler and Greg looked uncomfortable, shuffling their feet and avoiding eye contact. "Here is what is going to happen," I said, my voice steady despite the anger burning in my chest. "You are going to take your boxes and leave. The divorce papers are signed, which means this process can move forward quickly. You will get nothing from me, Derek. Not this house, not my savings, not another moment of my time. Because unlike you, I actually paid attention during our marriage. I know about the money you hid, the debts you racked up in both our names, the lies you told to make yourself look good." Derek opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. "And if you try to fight me on any of this, I have documentation. Every cruel text message, every suspicious charge, every time you humiliated me in public. I have been keeping records for 2 years, Derek, just in case I ever got the courage to leave. Turns out, you gave me that courage tonight." I gestured toward the boxes. "Now take your things and get out of my house." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, slowly, Derek reached for the nearest box. His friends grabbed the others, and without another word, they filed out the door. I stood at the window and watched them load everything into Derek's truck. As he climbed into the driver's seat, he looked back at the house one last time, his expression a mixture of disbelief and defeat. Then he drove away, and I felt something inside me release, like a knot that had been tied for 8 years finally coming undone. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of lawyers, paperwork, and new beginnings. My attorney was thrilled with the documentation I had compiled, calling it one of the most thorough cases she had ever seen. Derek tried to fight for half the house, half my savings, even half my retirement fund. But with the evidence of his infidelity and financial misconduct, he did not have a leg to stand on. Julian stayed in Portland longer than he had originally planned. At first, he said it was to make sure I was okay, to help with the transition. But as the days turned into weeks, it became clear that neither of us wanted him to leave. We took things slowly, both of us aware of the complicated circumstances. There were dinners that lasted for hours, long walks through the neighborhood, late-night conversations about everything and nothing. Julian was patient in a way Derek never had been, attentive in ways I had forgotten a person could be. "I do not want to rush you," he told me one evening as we sat on my front porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. "You have been through so much. I am not going anywhere." "I know," I said, reaching for his hand. "That is exactly why I trust you." The divorce was finalized 3 months after that birthday dinner. I got to keep the house, my retirement, and most of our joint savings. Derek was ordered to pay back the debts he had secretly accumulated, which meant he would be digging himself out of a financial hole for years to come. But the real vindication came a few weeks later, at a family gathering I almost did not attend. Julian's mother was celebrating her 60th birthday, and the entire extended family would be there, including Derek. I hesitated when Julian first mentioned it, unsure if I was ready to face my ex-husband in a social setting. "You do not have to come if you are not comfortable," Julian said. "I understand completely." But something in me wanted to go, not out of pettiness or a desire for revenge, but because I refused to let Derek's existence dictate my choices anymore. I had spent 8 years arranging my life around his moods and preferences. That was over now. "I will be there," I told Julian, "and I want to walk in holding your hand." The look on his face, pure joy mixed with disbelief, made everything worth it. The party was held at a beautiful restaurant overlooking the Willamette River. I wore a dress I never would have worn during my marriage, something that made me feel confident and beautiful. Julian looked at me like I was the only person in the room. We walked in together, his hand warm and steady in mine. The room was already full of family members, conversations buzzing, laughter floating through the air. And there, in the corner by the bar, stood Derek. He saw us at the exact moment we saw him. His drink froze halfway to his lips, his face going through a rapid series of emotions: confusion, recognition, shock, and finally, something that looked a lot like devastation. Julian squeezed my hand gently. "You okay?" I smiled, genuinely and freely. "I am perfect." Derek could not stop staring. Every few minutes I would catch him looking over at Julian and me, his expression growing more sour by the second. He was alone at the party, I noticed. Brittany from the gym was nowhere to be seen, and his usual entourage of Tyler and Greg had apparently not made the family invitation list. Halfway through the evening, he finally approached us. Julian's grip on my hand tightened slightly, but he did not move to shield me. He knew I could handle this myself. "So this is what you have been doing," Derek said, his words slightly slurred. He had clearly been making frequent trips to the bar. "Running off with my cousin the minute our marriage ended." "You ended our marriage, Derek?" I reminded him calmly. "On my birthday, in front of witnesses, remember?" His face flushed. "That was supposed to be... I did not think you would actually..." "You did not think I would actually leave?" I finished for him. "That is the problem, Derek. You never thought about what I might do, what I might want, what I might feel. You were so busy being the center of your own universe that you forgot other people exist." Several family members had noticed the exchange and were watching with undisguised interest. Derek shifted uncomfortably under their gazes. "You know what the funny thing is?" I continued, keeping my voice pleasant. "You handed me those divorce papers thinking you were humiliating me. But you actually gave me the best gift anyone ever has. You gave me a way out, Derek, and I took it." Julian stepped forward then, his voice quiet but firm. "I think you should walk away now, cousin. You have caused enough damage." For a moment I thought Derek might argue. But looking around at the family members watching, at the cousins and aunts and uncles who had heard the story of what he did at my birthday dinner, he seemed to deflate. Without another word, he turned and walked away. In the months that followed, I heard through the family grapevine that Derek's life had taken a significant downturn. Brittany had left him after discovering he was broke, the debts from the divorce settlement draining whatever savings he had. He lost his job at the sales firm after showing up drunk one too many times, and last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment across town, estranged from most of his family who had finally seen him for who he really was. Meanwhile, Julian and I built something beautiful together. He transferred his architecture work to Portland, and we spent our evenings renovating my little craftsman house, making it ours. He planted a garden in the backyard, and I learned that I actually loved cooking when someone appreciated the effort. We adopted a rescue dog named Maple, who slept at the foot of our bed and barked at squirrels. On the 1-year anniversary of that disastrous birthday dinner, Julian took me back to the same restaurant. I was hesitant at first, the memories still sharp, but he insisted, and I trusted him. We sat at a different table this time, one by the window overlooking the city lights. When the waiter brought out a small box instead of dessert, my heart nearly stopped. "1 year ago," Julian said, taking my hands in his, "someone tried to use this place to break you. I wanted to reclaim it, to turn it into something beautiful." He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "Laura, you are the strongest, most resilient person I have ever known. I have loved you since the moment I really got to know you. And I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget how extraordinary you are. Will you marry me?" I said yes through tears of joy. And as he slipped the ring onto my finger, I thought about the strange journey that had brought me here. A birthday ruined had become a life reclaimed. A marriage ended had made room for a love I never knew was possible. Looking back now, I realized that the best revenge was not watching Derek suffer, though there was a certain satisfaction in knowing he faced the consequences of his cruelty. No, the best revenge was simply living well, building a life filled with genuine love and respect, and finally understanding my own worth. Derek had thought he was delivering a devastating blow that night at the restaurant. Instead, he had unknowingly handed me the key to my freedom, and I had used it to unlock a future more beautiful than anything I could have imagined.